All right, folks. Welcome to tonight's episode, kind of, sort of the Dani effect. This is not what I originally had scheduled for tonight, but I do think that it's going to be incredibly insightful for folks who are back home and may not be aware of everything that's happening. And I have to be really, really honest. Hey, everybody. I have to be really, really honest with you guys. Hey, Mindy, what's up, love? So when this whole thing kind of transpired today, I was not expecting for it to lead back to politics, but it did. And I'm floored a little bit by that. Not sure why I'm floored by it. I've been following the money for a little bit. Hey, Shari, how are you? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you guys all of the information that I was able to uncover today. I'm going to share with you my conclusions. I am going to let you draw your own conclusions. I will tell you this. There is a ton of, hey, Brian, hey, Dani, how is everybody? You guys doing okay? My heart feels for you guys. Hey, Janice. Hey, Dani, how are you? So I've really been digging, but when I tell you there's a lot of information, and I probably still have tons of things that I could uncover in this process, but it's very, very important to me that we hold people accountable. We hold people in positions of power and authority that have the ability to do good. We have to hold them accountable, and we are going to do that. Hey, Sean, how are you? I will tell you that I spoke to a local news organization back home today. Hey, Mama, I can tell you that I talked directly to Senator Rusty Crowe's office today about the piece of legislation that he sponsored and proposed. That was brought to him by Ballad Health, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I will also tell you that I won't say that I conversed with, but I will tell you that I communicated with Alan Levine, who is the CEO of Ballad Health. He and I went back and forth, not so very nicely at first, on Twitter, and I got his attention, and then he invited me to send him a direct message. And I explained to him that he had to follow me first in order for me to do that. So we have done that, and I'm going to share with you, what he said, what I said. I'm going to share with you everything that I uncovered today. And we're just going to dive right in, because I firmly believe that we have to start digging deep and not just accepting things as fact, and as if there's nothing we can do about it. We are the people, and we can do something about even this. And I had to call my mama today, and I had to give my mama kudos for raising me right, and really stressing my education and making me be able to read and be articulate, because I've read legal documents today. I have read certificates of public advantage, which is called COPAs. I have read all types of information from both the state of Tennessee and the state of Virginia, things that they sent directly to Ballad Health. And I'm going to share with you what they mean and why you should be concerned. If you live in Northeast Tennessee or Southwest Virginia, this is for you. If you know anyone who lives in this area, this is for you. Okay. So the way that I got on this topic, because I originally planned to talk about immigration today, and Trump and Melania and a bunch of other stuff. And I put up a post today, not knowing that this is what was going to happen. I put up a post today because yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of us bringing home my granddaughter, Bella, from the NICU. She was born at 26 weeks. She weighed 1 pound and 3 ounces, and she was born at Holston Valley Medical Center. And let me say something. You guys have heard me do lives before and talk about, a lot of the racial stuff that happened, back home where I'm growing up, and how a lot of it is still racially tense and all of that. Here's what I loved. At no time when my daughter was in the care of those nurses and those doctors and that staff in the NICU was I at all concerned about her care because of the color of her skin. Not ever, not once. Let me tell you something, folks. Race had nothing to do with this. Their hearts were so big. Their expertise was so amazing. They are incredibly important to me. And it's important that if I have a voice, I use it to help them. Okay, so Shari, this is for you as well. All right, so here's the deal. I found out a while back, back in October, that Ballad Health was considering closing this NICU unit in Holston Valley Medical Center, which is a level 1 unit, and moving all of the NICU services to Niswonger in Johnson City. And I was concerned then, and I reached out and I messaged Ballad Health, and they gave me this whatever reply, which you can go back and watch my live from this morning if you choose to do that, but it's not really relevant right now. What's important is that they basically just told me all of this money that they committed and and whatever. So after I put up my post today, expressing my gratitude, one of the nurses actually commented and said, they just announced this morning that they are closing our NICU. And I was devastated. And so I hopped on my live, you know how I do when I get mad about something, and said, this is crazy. So let me just tell you what happened, okay? So there's, in this region, in this Southwest Virginia, Northeast region of Tennessee, it's very rural, okay? It's very rural, lots of country roads, lots of it's just rural. And so you don't have, especially the Southwest Virginia side, they have even more limited access to healthcare and trauma centers and NICUs than Northeast Tennessee does. But so we had two healthcare systems, Wellmont healthcare system and Mountain States Alliance healthcare system. And those two systems had been proposing to merge together, okay? Oh, Shari, honey, if you didn't know, I'm about to blow your socks off. So those two healthcare systems had proposed to merge together, and the FTC was strongly against this happening. And they were concerned about antitrust laws and violations. They were concerned about a lot of different things. And the FTC kept saying, no, we're not going to approve this merger. So what happened is these two healthcare systems decided to apply for what's called a COPA agreement, which is a cooperative agreement. And in Tennessee, it's called the Cooperative Agreement for Public Advantage. And in Virginia, it's just called the Cooperative Agreement. And what this means is that they will allow this merger to go through if the benefits of the merger outweigh the disadvantages of not having competition in that region. So basically, by this merger being approved, what is now Ballad Health, which is Wellmont and Mountain States combined together, get this, guys, they control 71% of inpatient care in this area. 71%. That is way more than the freaking majority, right? And so because of that, people in these regions are very they don't have any other alternatives for their care. It's either these hospitals, these clinics, or not. Like literally, that's it. They don't have any other options. So I want to share with you the counties that are affected. Okay. So well, never mind. I'm not going to go into all that. It's tons. So you guys know the region. I'll put up a map later if you want me to. But here's what's changing. Not only are they taking the NICU from Holston Valley Medical Center, they are also downgrading the trauma center there. It's only going to be a level 3 trauma center. Bristol will have a level 3 trauma center, and Johnson City will have a level 1 trauma center. So Johnson City is going to be upgraded to a level 1 trauma center, and they're going to have the only perinatal NICU center in Johnson City, and it won't be at Holston Valley anymore. So why does that matter? Well, here's why it matters. Right now, if you are say you're in Rogersville, Tennessee, and you are going into preterm labor and your baby is going to be born sooner than 35 weeks, you can go to Holston Valley, which is only going to take you 35 minutes to get there, and you're going to have amazing care, expert staff, expert surgeons who are going to know how to care for your baby, okay, in their NICU center. Now, once this all goes into effect, you are going to have to drive almost an hour, around 50 to 55 minutes into Johnson City, assuming there's no traffic, which there's always traffic in Johnson City, assuming that the roads are good, it's not wintertime, and all of those other things. And the CEO, Alan Levine, what he said to me today was, we're only talking about 20 minutes. And my response was, maybe you and your staff should ask the NICU nurses and doctors and surgeons what can happen to a baby in 20 minutes, sir. Oh, it's only 20 minutes. You guys ever sat in your car for 20 minutes in traffic? You ever wondered what can you imagine your baby coming at 26, 27, 28 weeks, 22 weeks and having to drive an extra 20, 30 minutes to get care? And knowing that if you stop anywhere sooner than that, the facility is not going to be equipped to handle you. And then here's my question. So let's just say you can't drive there because these are rural. Listen, this is not an affluent community. We are talking about people that if you're making $10 an hour back home, you are considered to have a good job. Like that's a good job back home, folks. You know, this is not an affluent community. Okay. True story. Right. And so my question is this. So let's just say something happens. You go to deliver early. You're at home. Who's paying for the medevacs? Who's paying for the transportation? Are these people going to incur all of this cost that's associated with this change in your NICU units and your trauma centers? Who's paying for this stuff? So if someone has a trauma in Marion, Virginia, and they have to get an hour and 20 minutes away, an hour and 15 minutes away to get NICU services for their babies or trauma care for themselves, who's paying for that transportation? No one in this region can afford $500 ambulance rides, $1,000 ambulance rides, $5,000. Nobody can afford that. So let me keep going. So here's the deal. Because there's a lot that I want to get to. Hey, Michelle, how is everybody? Are y'all with me? Are y'all freaking out yet? Because I want to can I go ahead and I'll just tell you how politics gets involved and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. So here's what happened. They applied for this COPA agreement. They were told that it was under consideration. Let that be my next topic. I got you, Lester. Yeah, he said it's only 20 minutes. Well, then he told me in relation to closing the Holston Valley Medical Center NICU, he said, we're only talking about 100 babies. Well, let me just speak on behalf of the 100 babies. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Okay, so here's the deal. The COPA outlines a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to go over that with you. But basically, they went back and forth in these COPAs about what Ballad needed to commit to doing, right? What they needed to commit to doing in order for them to pass, in order for these states to pass these COPAs, okay? And they went through this process from May of 2017 all the way through until January 2018, January 31st, 2018, the COPA was, can y'all see that? The COPA was granted, okay? Now, here's the deal. Literally, within 2 to 3 weeks of this COPA being approved by the states, Ballad Health took their bill that they had ready to go and they took it to Senator Rusty Crowe, who is over District 3 in Tennessee, which is Johnson City, which happens to be where they want to move everybody to. Y'all follow the money right here? Are y'all following the money? So they took a bill to him that they wanted him to sponsor and propose for them. And what this bill allows them to do, because one of the conditions of the COPA was complete transparency with the public. Okay, so it was to have complete transparency so that the public could be aware of what was happening and the decisions and the choices that they were making, because this is a monopoly. You are literally controlling 71% of inpatient care. Okay, so transparency was part of this agreement. So they went back and they asked for, they took this bill to Senator Rusty Crowe, and it's SB, S as in Sam, B as in boy, SB 2048. And it did pass. It passed in May. So they took this bill to him in February of 2018 is when it was proposed, and it was passed in May of 2018. And what this bill allows them to do is to keep some of their information private from the public. They may have to disclose it to the state, but they don't have to disclose it to the public. So that means the public is now dependent upon Ballad Health and the state, who are basically in bed together, to say, yes, Ballad's keeping their promise, and this is really in your best interest. Sorry, I don't really buy that. I'm not cool with that, just relying on you guys. So here's the deal. I understand that things like business plans and financial audits and marketing strategies, it's perfectly fine if you keep those things private. But the other things that are included are additions and deletions of services. They do not have to disclose to the general public when they decide to stop offering orthopedic care or cardiovascular care or NICU care or changing your trauma level centers. Like, they don't have to tell you all shit because Senator Rusty Crowe proposed and got through and sponsored this legislation for them. They don't have to tell you when facilities close or when they're going to be changed for repurposing. Now, the COPA necessitates that Ballad tell the state about those things, but the public would be lawfully excluded from any of these notifications per the bill. Now, considering the limited access to health care that you guys already have, especially in Southwest Virginia, I think this is utter bullshit. Just saying, who's going to hold Ballad accountable? Now, here's what's funny. Senator Rusty Crowe, when he was asked about this legislation that he was sponsoring on behalf of Ballad, and let me just tell you this for kicks and giggles. I talked directly to Senator Crowe's office today, and these were her exact words. Matter of fact, I recorded it. By the way, both Tennessee and Georgia are one party consents, so it was legal for me to record the conversation. Just so y'all know, I was one of the parties to the conversation, so it was legal. And this is what she said to me. She said, when they brought it to him. This is what she said, when they brought it to him. So this was a bill that literally Ballad Health said, hey, this is what we want you to sponsor for us so that we can keep our information private and we don't have to be transparent with the public. 3 weeks after the COPA was agreed to, that said we needed to have transparency with the public. And Rusty Crowe said, absolutely, I'll do that. Now, do you guys want to know why he did that, in my humble opinion? Well, because Rusty Crowe's district is Johnson City. Well, guess what? Johnson City is where they want to send all the NICU babies to. Johnson City is going to have the only level 1 trauma center. Johnson City's NICU is going to be upgraded to a perinatal center. So all the babies in the region have to go to Johnson City. Wonder how much money that's going to bring in. I wonder how many people are going to have to spend money for hotels, and how many people are going to have to buy gas, and how many people are going to have to buy food and supplies. I can tell you, when Bella was born, you know, we rented rooms at the hospital because they didn't have enough of them available for us, and we paid every single night. And when those rooms weren't available, because there could only be one family in there at a time, when those rooms weren't available, I took my ass down to the hotel, and we got hotel rooms there. I can tell you right now, it costs a hell of a lot more for a hotel on a nightly basis, usually, than it does in Johnson City than it does in Kingsport. And who's got the money for that? So basically, follow this, y'all. Oh, they apply for a COPA, and then they already have waiting in their wings this bill that they want. And the senator that they choose is the senator that they know will propose the bill, because he's going to do whatever happens for them to be. So Roanoke, okay, so Shari, wait a minute. Roanoke is a little bit outside. So follow me. This goes all the way up to the Wythe County border. The NICU in Roanoke is going to stay there. So basically anybody that's in Smith County, Marion, all the way up to Wytheville, those people are going to have to choose. Do they drive the hour and a half or so to Roanoke, or do they drive the hour and a half to Johnson City? Got it. Thank you, Athena. All right, so here's the deal. So basically, this senator says, yes, Ballad Health, I will do your bidding, because you're going to bring all of this stuff to Johnson City and put us on the perinatal map. Are y'all following that? Does that not piss anybody else off but me? Well, while we're getting pissed off, this is what Senator Rusty Crowe had to say about the bill. He said that his bill simply aims to maintain Ballad's competitive ability. So Ballad, what they say is, oh, the only thing we're keeping private are the things that keep us competitive. Well, sir, you control 71% of the inpatient care in this. Like, who the fuck's your competition? Nobody. Who you competing against? Nobody. That's why you have a COPA. It's BS, folks. It's absolute 100% BS. The co-ops with both Virginia and the COPAs with Virginia and Tennessee, the conditions were for operation combined transparency and accountability, not simply at the state level, but at the individual level too. But now this gives them a loophole that they don't have to do that. Okay. Moving on. Now I'm going to really tell you this. Oh, by the way, Rusty Crowe is up for election in 2020. Just throwing that out there. Feel free to go ahead and decide now that you're not voting for him. I'm good with that. So let me also tell you a little bit more about Rusty Crowe. He just happens to be the chair for the Health and Welfare Committee in the Senate. He's the chair for the Health and Welfare Committee in the Senate, folks. That's what he is. In addition to that, out of his $589,428 of campaign contribution, $226,325 has come from the health industry, 40% just about. I could read off all of the associations that have been patting his campaign this entire time. So, it's funny because at first I thought I'm just dealing with a hospital that is putting their profits before people. I'm just dealing with the hospital, a healthcare system that is lining their pockets and not caring about the lives of a baby or the nurses or the people that they employ. Because by the way, not only do they have a patient care monopoly, they have a freaking medical employment monopoly. If you're not working for Ballad Health in this industry, who are you going to work for? If they control 71% of in-care population and 20 hospitals. They all belong to Ballad. So what are you going to do? Pack your family up and move if you all of a sudden don't work for Ballad anymore? This is a monopoly across the board. And we should be concerned about it. So follow me. I'm get a little hyped up. So in my conversation, in my exchange in Twitter and in direct message, let me just go ahead and pull this up. I'm not going to read to you the stuff where we were going back and forth because it got a little bit ugly. Because he thought he was going to be a smart ass and he misquoted me. And I was like, look, if you're going to quote me, I need you to get it right, sir. Anyway, he finally asked me to DM him when we were going back and forth on Twitter. And when I DM'd him, he said to me, if you can please give me your contact information. When I say he, I'm referring to Alan Levine, who is the CEO of Ballad Health. And he said, if you can please give me your contact information, I will have our chief nursing officer reach out to you in the next few days. I appreciate your passion, although I think you have the wrong idea about our intentions. Now, let me just say this. When we were going back and forth on Twitter, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Dani the Poet on Twitter. If you follow me, you will see he was not appreciating my passion at first. So let me just keep going. And I gave him my telephone number and my email address. And I said, well, what are your intentions if you believe I have them wrong? And he said, I have no intentions. Just want my experts to hear your opinions, and for you to hear ours. Your opinion is important. And I said, you said that you think I have the wrong idea about your being Ballad's intentions. What are Ballad's intentions if you think I have them wrong? And he said, we mean to do what's best for our region. We live here too. And I said, respectfully put, not too many people in that region have salaries of $800,000 a year like you do, sir. Most of these families cannot even afford the discounted rooms at Holston Valley to be near their babies. They have a difficult enough time taking off work and having transportation to the hospitals for breastfeeding and kangaroo care. These are serious issues that do not work with your new strategy. They just don't. So since I mentioned his salary, let me just tell you this. I don't know the exact salary of right now this year because they haven't disclosed that information, and they don't have to because of SB 2048. But here's what I do know. I do know that when Bart Hove was the CEO of Wellmont and Alan Levine was the CEO of Mountain State Health Alliance back in 2015, Bart Hove made $1.4 million with 520,000 of that coming in bonuses and incentives. Alan Levine made $1.3 million with $134,000 in bonuses. Base salaries, one of them was $800,000, the other one was $874,179. So here's my thing. Maybe your hospitals wouldn't have needed to merge if you all weren't making $1 million each off the backs of poor disadvantaged people in the region. Just throwing that out there, son. Just something to consider. I don't know too many other people in the Tri-Cities area making $1 million a year and then screaming we need to cut costs and cut our operating budgets and reduce services and make things that you need even less accessible to you. Sorry, I don't buy that you have this region's best interests at heart. Bullshit. You want to figure out how to keep lining your pockets. And you're getting senators to do your dirty work, and you're bringing business to their regions to do it. This is exactly what we keep talking about in politics, where you are paying for permission to build and grow your businesses in certain regions. That's exactly what this is. So when I brought up his salary, what he said, we are literally talking about, listen to this, guys, we are literally talking about, I'm reading him verbatim. We are literally talking about less than 100 premature babies at Holston Valley Medical Center per year that are more than 35 weeks, that are less than 35 weeks in gestation. So I guess 100 babies is not a big deal to him. 100 babies is a big deal to me. My grandbaby was one of 100 babies. And by the way, the numbers that he's starting to quote for Holston Valley are not even, the only reason they're accurate now is because over a month ago, they started diverting babies from Holston Valley to Johnson City. Bristol hasn't sent NICU babies to Holston Valley in over a month. That NICU used to be packed. They started already moving the babies in this direction so that the numbers look like they're so decreased. Let me tell you something. For about 2 years, last year when Bella was born there, it was packed. And the year before that, it was packed. They told me when Bella was born there that ever since they had upgraded the NICU there, they brought in specialist doctors, that it has just been packed with babies. And over the last however many months, they've started to defer those babies to Johnson City to justify this move. Thank you. It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months since Bristol sent a baby to the NICU in Holston Valley. So it makes it look like this is justifiable. No, there is a need for this NICU center in Kingsport. There is. So, and he said it's a national evidence-based best practice. And then he said, I'm happy to have our chief nursing officer speak with you. This is a clinically based decision based on input from experts, doctors, and nursing leaders. And I said, so this is my point. Having the mothers there and able to breastfeed, to provide kangaroo care, especially is critical, especially that last month before discharge. You know, what do you do when you can't, like, you're telling me that people are supposed to be able to take off work to drive to do feedings that are going to be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half away. And you're supposed to be able to do that more than once a day or more than a couple of times a week or even a week at all. People were already having a hard time doing this when they lived within 15 miles. So I said, your changes make that more difficult. You're simply not taking anything into consideration when it comes to the geography and the demographics of the area. And he said, okay, so when you speak with our chief nursing officer, let's focus on that. There are some things we may be able to do to help. We're not trying to make things difficult. And I said, that's fine, because I got that he was done. He was tired of talking to my ass. He'd been tweeting with me for an hour. And I said, I do appreciate you responding. You just have to understand that this is something I'm incredibly passionate about. I know this NICU. I know their work. I grew up in this area. This is an economically disadvantaged area to start with, where people cannot afford private health care. Most of their employers don't offer health care, or if so, it's not the best. And they can't afford transportation costs or hotel rooms in Johnson City. The impact on these families will be significant in many ways. And he did not reply. The COPA for Tennessee is 116 pages long in its totality. The COPA for Virginia is 151 pages. I did not print them all, but there are things that I do want you to hear. One of the most important things that I want you to hear is both of these COPAs are continually, the verbiage, listen to me. This is something that I need you guys to get. The verbiage for these COPAs say that they are continually under review. They can be modified, they can be terminated, they can be any of those things if it's determined that Ballad is not, if at any point in time it is determined that the disadvantages to the public outweigh the advantages of their merger. So in other words, if you guys can show, you're welcome, guys. See, Heather, we're going to talk about that in a second too. So listen, if we know that having the ability to have competition in this area, okay, could make Ballad change their practices, and that would be more advantageous and more beneficial to the people in that region, they can cancel, they can terminate, they can modify these COPAs at any point in time. So here's what you need to do. If you live in this area, or if you know anyone who does, you need to contact your attorney generals and your healthcare commissioners. The attorney general for Tennessee is Herbert Slattery, or Slattery, however you say his name, Slater the third. Herbert, that's your dude. You want to hit him up in Tennessee. Janice, you know I don't talk like that. I don't talk like you know that won't happen. I don't. I believe in change. And I believe that if nothing else, you go balls to the wall to make that shit happen regardless. It's legally in here. So I don't care if somebody goes and gets an attorney to speak on behalf of the nurses at the NICU. If somebody goes and gets an attorney to speak on behalf of the people of that region, somebody file a freaking lawsuit. Somebody talk to the attorney general, because if not, you have one company that is controlling the health of 71% of the people in this region, and that is not okay. These are rural roads. I'm here to tell you, once it gets cold, once it snows, there have been times I can't go home for Christmas because of the weather. This is not okay. The Attorney General for the state of Virginia is Mark Herring, Herring. Those are the two gentlemen that you want to reach out to. Herbert Slattery, Mark Herring. Scream as loud as your lungs can take it, because 100 babies do matter. 100 babies matter. All right, so I want to give y'all a little bit more information. Look, this is how mad I am. See my hives? All right, so listen. So he asked me what did I think was a better solution. And call me crazy, but they've committed to spending all this money. And it's like $140 million over 10 years. And the way that this money is supposed to be spent is they are supposed to create pediatric emergency rooms at these other hospitals, right? Well, what good does that do if you don't have the specialists and all that other stuff that's there? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. So here's my thing. Okay, so let me give you some numbers. If you are in Bean Station, you're about 45 minutes from Kingsport, 45 miles from Kingsport, 68 miles to Johnson City. If you're in Rogersville, it's 35 minutes to Kingsport, 55 to 60 minutes to Johnson City. So those are the longest commutes. So everybody's 30 to 45 minutes, give or take, from Kingsport, right? Bristol is going to be about 30 to 45 minutes to either Kingsport or Johnson City. Where you get into a problem is Southwest Virginia, from Smith County all the way down. They don't have access to a NICU that's not more than an hour away, okay? So here's my thing. Here's what makes more sense to me. Now, I'm a lay person. I know I'm not the most brilliant person on the planet, but just follow me. If you took those funds and instead you upgraded Abingdon to a level 3 trauma center, right? And you gave Abingdon a level 1 NICU, right? And you put it on the same level as Holston Valley. Then the folks that are in Marion, Virginia and Smith County, Virginia, they now have a NICU that is 30 to 40 minutes away from them. Bristol has one that's 30 to 40 minutes away from them. So does Kingsport, so does Johnson City. Rogersville does too. It's the closest solution to giving everybody access to saving babies in a reasonable amount of time, instead of making it longer and harder for people to get that care. Thank you, Renda. Appreciate that. Now, call me crazy, but that just makes sense to me. Instead of taking one away, I would give one. And then I would reduce the salaries of my board. Like Nishwanger happens to be on the board, and he's part of the leadership team, and he's one of the biggest beneficiaries, or whatever, y'all know what I'm trying to say, paying for the hospital in Johnson City. Okay, so check this out. Jesus. So some of the things that they're saying, so this is the cooperative agreement, or part of it anyway, that was sent to Alan Levine and Bart Hove. Now, let me tell you something about Bart Hove. Bart Hove actually decided to retire right before everything was agreed upon. He bailed and was like, I'm out. Okay. So here's the deal. This is what they said, is that if the benefits likely to result from the proposed cooperative agreement outweigh the disadvantages likely to result from a reduction in competition from the proposed cooperative agreement. So here's what they're saying. Hold on a second. At a time when the continued operation of many rural healthcare facilities is at risk, the applicants have made commitments to keep all Virginia hospitals open as clinical and healthcare institutions for at least 5 years. But that doesn't mean that they can't change or reduce the services that are being provided at those locations. It doesn't mean that they can't repurpose them. It just means as long as they provide that basic level of care, then they're fulfilling the agreement. Follow me, right? I want to skip this one though, and I want to go here. So one of the things that the FTC said was that the applicants, being Wellmont and Mountain State, which is now Ballad, they said they have not adequately explained why the merger is necessary to continue or expand the participation in the state Medicaid program, or why alternatives to the cooperation agreement would not suffice to continue or expand their participation. The applicants have made unsubstantiated claims that the merged system scale would allow the applicants to optimize access for the Medicaid population. They omitted where it was cited from. The applicants are already integrated health systems with sufficient scale to achieve their claimed benefits independently. So the FTC was like, nah, we're good. We don't believe you. We don't think this is necessary. You're good. And then the states put together this COPA in order to make it happen, because they kept coming back and making promises about what they were going to do. And then as soon as they made those agreements about what they were going to do and how transparent they were going to be in doing it, they proposed and put together legislation, and they took it off to Senator Crow, and he pushed it through for them. And in exchange, he got an upgraded perinatal center and a level 1 trauma center. All right, so here are some of the things that they agreed to for Southwest Virginia. These are some of the goals. They have an increase. They want to increase the percentage of children aged 19 to 35 months who receive, and they list all these vaccinations. So one of the goals of Ballad Health is to promote vaccinations. That's not necessarily going to agree with some folks, but well, here's the thing, Mandy, about meeting those goals. You are not going to know anymore, because that's the whole purpose in SB 2048, that piece of legislation that Senator Crow sponsored and pushed through. What that did was it made a lot of the stuff that they might choose to do not accessible to the public anymore. The COPA was supposed to make it so that they were transparent with the state. And so, like, if there's an individual or a firm that the state hires to do these audits and to do these reviews and to examine what Ballad is doing, that information would become a matter of public record. Well, SB 2048 keeps that from being public record. So you have to trust your state government to tell you that Ballad is holding up their end of the bargain and that they're keeping their promises, because you, my dear, are not going to know, because they no longer have to tell you. Do y'all get how crazy that is? One of their other goals is to increase the percentage of boys and girls between the ages of 13 and 17 who receive 3 doses of HPV vaccine to 80%. They want 80% of your babies between the ages of 13 to 17 to have 3 doses of HPV. So listen, this is an objective. This is an objective of Ballad Health, is to increase vaccinations in your children. What's up, Roland? I have a problem with that. I believe that parents get to decide that. I don't believe that my healthcare provider should have an agenda that tells me what I have to do with my 13 and 17-year-old child when it comes to certain vaccinations and things like that. Another thing, they were supposed to decrease, goal 1.7 is to decrease infant mortality rate across the region. Well, tell me this, folks, how are you going to decrease infant mortality rates when you're shutting down a NICU center all the way in Kingsport? I agree, Janice. Decrease total preterm births across the region. Well, how are you going to do that when you've basically moved all of the highest level care to Johnson City and the rest of the region is just left? Hold on. You're supposed to decrease teen pregnancy rate by 25% in all jurisdictions with no jurisdiction trending upward. Increase the percentage of adults who receive an annual flu vaccine to 70%. So they have an agenda now to make sure that adults, 70% of you get the flu shot, not just the elderly, not just infants. There's an agenda here. Do y'all not see the trend with Big Pharma pushing all of their immunizations, pushing everything that they want through? Do y'all not see it? Because I see it clearly. There's so much here. Here's what I want you to take away from this, because there's a lot that I could still go into. Let me just make sure real quick that I'm not leaving anything out that I really want to share. I've already talked about that. So listen to me. I'm going to give you this. But some people are and some people aren't. Here's my thing, Mindy. You're okay. If you are all down with vaccinations, great. That's for you. I don't believe that a healthcare provider should have the agenda and that agenda should be part of an agreement in order for you to be able to get a merger. That's what I'm saying. As part of the state agreeing to let you merge, I don't believe that they should have an agenda. That's my problem. If you want vaccinations, go get them. If you don't want them, don't go get them. I believe that that's an individual choice. I don't believe that these two companies should have gotten their merger, their COPA agreements, and part of that be that they have an agenda to push vaccinations on people. I don't believe that should be the case. Call me crazy. I'm going to tell you this right now. Dickinson Community Hospital, you are going to have an emergency department. Mountain View Regional Medical Center, in Virginia, you're going to have an emergency department. Norton Community Hospital, emergency department. Lonesome Pine Hospital, only an emergency department. Smith County Community Hospital, emergency department. Johnston Memorial Hospital, an emergency department. Bristol Regional Medical Center, you will have a emergency department and level 3 trauma. Holston Valley Medical Center, you will have an emergency room, emergency department, and level 3 trauma. Well, Indian Path will have just an emergency department. Hancock County, Tennessee, just an emergency department. Hawkins County, just an emergency department. Laughlin Memorial Hospital, just an emergency department. Tacoma Regional Hospital, just an emergency department. Unicoi County Memorial Hospital, just an emergency department. Sycamore Shoals Hospital, just an emergency department. Johnson County Community Hospital in Tennessee, just an emergency department. Nishwanger and Johnson City Medical Center, you will have a level 1 trauma, you will have a level, and you will have a level 1 NICU facility. You will have a perinatal NICU facility, only 1 of 5 in the entire state. And I want y'all to really trace this back and understand how this happened. 2 companies that didn't manage their finances well, that overpaid their CEOs and their staffs and gave them millions of freaking dollars and lined their pockets, said, oh, well, in order to save our hospitals that we ran into the damn ground while we became millionaires, what we need to do is we need to merge and we need to create a monopoly over all of the hospitals and the patient care and the healthcare system employment in this region. And in order to do that, we need a special agreement because the FTC said, hell no, you will violate antitrust laws. And they said, oh, you know what? We'll agree to doing all of these things that y'all want us to do. And we're going to be really transparent to you, to the state, to the public, so you guys can hold us accountable. And as soon as they said, okay, if you do all of that, Cool, you can now merge. 3 weeks later, they slide their little bill over to Rusty Crowe and they say, Rusty Crowe, take this to the Senate because we don't want to tell y'all everything we're doing. Rusty Crowe says, yes, sir. I'll be happy to do that for you, sir. And he takes that bill right on up to the Senate and they pass it. And he screws over everybody in the county. But he looks good because now he has a perinatal center in his city. And now he has a level 1 trauma center in that city. Doesn't matter who else has to now double their drive to get care. It doesn't matter who's going to be driving an extra 20 minutes if their baby needs to be in the NICU. It doesn't matter to them as long as they still have $800,000 salaries. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for clarification? Anything that y'all want to say? Because now I've given you a ton of information. And you're welcome, Suzanne. I love you very much. Oh, hey, Melanie. I didn't even know you were on here, boo. Oh, well, we already talked about this. We already talked. Okay, so Melanie, check this out. When mom was just in the hospital, she was just in the hospital. I had to ask them. I was like, hey, there's no soap in the soap dispenser in the shower. And she said, oh, we don't staff that anymore. There were no towels. There were no washcloths. There was no soap. They didn't come to change her linen until the morning of the 4th day that we were there. Yeah, Mindy, this is my point. This is my point. And the thing is sometimes I feel bad because I want to dig more and more for you guys and give you as much information, because here's the thing. If we're not informed, we don't know. We don't know. And I believe that if more people knew, so like that stupid thing when everybody said, not everybody, but when some of those too woke to vote folks last week were like, well, why should I vote? It don't work. Well, you should vote because senators like Rusty Crowe are passing legislation that affects your damn health care. That's why you should vote, because these folks are lining their pockets and making themselves look good. And then saying, we're only talking about, can I just read it again for y'all? This is literally the CEO of Ballad Health saying to me, hold on, folks. We are literally talking about, I'm quoting, we are literally talking about less than 100 premature babies at Holston Valley Medical Center per year that are born earlier than 35 weeks. That's a problem for me. Every baby matters to me. Bella was one of those babies, sir. And I think about what would have happened had she not been where she was, had she not had the care that she had. Those doctors and those nurses are incredible at that facility, and they deserve more respect and more consideration than they are receiving. The community deserves more respect and consideration than they are being given. It matters. And this was my response to him when he said, we want to do what's best for the region. We live here too. And I said, no, Linda, I'm not playing anything. I don't know why you're hearing anything in the background. Saved my grandson's life too. Saved my granddaughter's life. So here's the thing. When he said to me that their intentions are to do what's best for our region, he said, we mean to do what's best for our region. We live here too. And I said, respectfully put, not too many people in that region have salaries of $800,000. And that's his salary, or at least it was. You don't have to worry about you, sir. You don't have to worry about getting to a level 1 trauma center, getting to or whatever. You've got money. You got money. Most of the people in this region do not. Most of them don't have cars that will be able to go up and down the road that freely. Just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for immediate care, and it doesn't work long-term for a NICU situation. Where are these moms going to stay? Who's going to provide transportation? What's going to happen? Are you telling me these babies aren't supposed to connect and to build a bond with their mom and dad? Are you telling me that? What's going to be the impact on those babies? We got to start thinking outside of numbers. These are not, he literally said this is science-based. He said it's national evidence-based best practice. Well, you know what? Talk to me. What's your heart practice? What's your heart practice? Where's your humanity? This is what's wrong with hospitals today. They run them just like they're a business with no humanity. And you forget the oath that you take as a doctor and as a physician and as a nurse. And if you run those organizations, you should have to take that same oath, in my opinion. See, Janice, I get it. I get it. Bella was born at 26 weeks, 1 pound, 3 ounces. Exactly, Mindy. They live a hell of a lot better than everybody else. Folks there are doing good to make $20,000 a year, $25,000 a year. So, all right, folks. See, Renee, you get it. So make sure that folks know, make sure people, and remember, your attorney generals can change things, folks. Your attorney generals can change things. Reach out to Herbert Slattery or Slattery, however you say his name, in the state of Tennessee. Reach out to Mark Herring in the state of Virginia. And for God's sake, whatever you do, vote in 2020, because Rusty Crowe does not deserve to still be there, in my opinion. That is all I got for you. Thank you all for participating and listening and sharing. I will keep you posted with anything else that I hear. Anything like I'm supposed to hear from his chief nursing officer. When I do, I will let you know what that conversation is. And like I said, I have the recording for Rusty Crowe's office today, telling me that basically she literally said when they brought the legislation to him, he sponsored it for them. So basically they just brought it to him, worded how they wanted it to word according to the way their attorneys, I'm sure, set it up. So, right, Jamie, that's my thing. That's exactly my point. And that's what I said to him. These moms are not going to be able to come for kangaroo care. They're not going to be able to come back and forth for feedings and all of that. And bond, that's incredibly important to those babies. And I said the same thing. So I am with you 100%. You are welcome, Athena. I love you all so much. Every day, I'm so grateful. I've said if I just had like millions of dollars in the bank, I'd buy you all like Kenny Chesney tickets and let you go to every concert he has. Oh my God. I appreciate all of you guys. This stuff is important. Politics, your health, your life, it matters. And together we can do something about it. Okay. All right. I'm going to go. You guys know how I end this thing, or at least you should by now, right? Be amazing. Be light. Be love. I'm out of here. Bye, guys.